Welcome to the Mind's Eye News Network, bringing you the latest updates in horror entertainment. Think of the Coroner's Report as your one-stop shop for all things scary movies. From news to debuts, from a theater near you to the comfort of your living room, from Blu-ray to 4K, from... Contact established. I'll take things from here. As much as the Coroner's Report strives to provide you peace of mind in your darkest hour, I'm afraid we have grave news in store. Your trusted news that will refuse to skimp on all the gory details? Today's lead correspondent, Inkarnate, will play your bearer of bad news. We go now to our Shadowcaster for a sign of things to come. And what better omen can we ask for than a word from our sponsors? Think of the power to tune out the whole world placed in your hands. Now think again, because Jabra Headsets puts that power in your ears. Listen closely. From workout earbuds to Bluetooth music headsets and office hearing devices. So, if other brands play your music sounding like a broken record, march to the beat of a different tune with Jabra. If you're an HD snob like me, you probably buy Samsung for all your major electronics. Catch up on your favorite horror classics on one of their Ultra HD TVs. Watch one of Screen Factory's Blu-rays on their 4K players. Keep up with updates from 80s horror documentary In Search of Darkness on a high-end tablet. Subscribe to your favorite YouTuber through one of their Galaxy phones. I have so many Samsung devices, I've always thought they should be paying me. Well, now they can, and you can help. If you use the link in the description for either Samsung or Jabra purchases, it'll help the channel out tremendously. With the promotional considerations accounted for, it's on with the show.
Once again, this is rumor control. Here are the facts.
Join us.
Let's go for a little ride.
We kick things off with the horrors you bring home. I've made no bones about it. Every year that passes, I always look more forward toward scary movies coming out on Blu-ray than I do releasing in theaters. And fans, do I have news for you. I don't know if you saw my Batman Chagrin's warning label or caught that thrilling new Thor Love and Thunder trailer.
You ever feel lost? Just look into the eyes of the people that you love.
But the summer action films in cinemas ain't lighting the world on fire, so it's up to the horror classics to deliver the goods on the home front. With digital platform censorship working overtime to distract us from the cover-up of suppression with the convenience of streaming, I for one will be sticking to my Blu-rays and disc trays. Leave the blockbusters to wallow in theaters, because this summer's heavy hitters belong to horror at home. Dropping May 10th is early contender for 2022's top horror film, The Cursed. Now, I've posted my review, but here's a preview. A 19th century French village is held tight in the grip of a, curse. A gypsy spell upon the land releases a beast to wreak havoc and guarantee a slaughtered tribe's vengeance beyond the grave. What timing that this movie landed, because not since Dog Soldiers exactly 20 years ago have we had such a noteworthy werewolf film. 2 decades is a long time to be left starving for a film like this to deliver in this genre, and with enough twists and body horror on display, The Cursed will quell that hunger. 2 weeks later, on May 24th, we're in for a doubleheader. First up at bat, we have a cult classic Lifeforce that's totally batshit. Every movie buff and cinephile experiences that brain fog where they're trying to recall a movie whose title they can't quite remember, and then your brain goes, you got me, I haven't a clue what you mean, and I'm the hard drive backing up all your memory. They try piecing together fragments of the plot.
I thought you'd never ask.
What's that movie where the vampires electrocute people into an undead army just to turn into mummies when they're killed, and it's got a pair of tits that take over the world? Meanwhile, spirits escaping from the Ghostbusters fly around during the zombie apocalypse where the hero saves the day by stripping butt-ass naked and penetrates Madame Memories betwixt her sugar plums, sending her skyward, and she takes her man-meat along for the ride on her UFO? Wait, spaceship? I call poppycock on that. You had me until the flying saucer. You can only retort, what the hell movie am I even thinking of? Survey says, all of the above. This level of acid trip conceptualization could have only come from the 80s, and is a touchstone of the imaginative cult classics we used to get. Well, now it's yours to own in stunning 4K. Let's shift gears and jump decades. If you saw my Valentine's horror episode, Heartache, you heard my strong recommendation for Candyman, the scariest 90s film. Also dropping May 24th is this urban myth-making classic for the first time on 4K. An urban legend takes on new life and spells gruesome death to any who speak his name. And what a siren song the Candyman speaks in his hauntingly raspy voice to soothe his victims before the stab of the honeybee's stinger. University graduate Helen couldn't leave well enough alone. Despite her entire life ahead of her, alas, when word reached her ear of a boogeyman plaguing a local housing project, ever the inquisitive college student, she went in pursuit to unearth this mystery. More's the pity. She unwittingly set in motion the tragedy of her own downfall precisely because she went looking for this trouble, and now she looks through a glass darkly. Tempting fate sees her life getting shattered, where the world witnesses her reflection over Candyman's recent killings. Only she can see him murdering from the mirror. If you're like me, you bought Candyman when it first landed on Blu-ray in autumn of 2018. Therefore, as inconvenient as it is to essentially double dip in less than 4 years on the same movie, you can thank me for doing the legwork to assure you that the 4K will indeed not only carry over the same extensive bonus material from the previous Scream Factory release, but has even added a new interview called Looking Back in the Mirror with actress Vanessa Estelle Williams. Part of the selling point for me when it comes to Blu-ray over streaming is the special features, and with an impressive lineup of over 15 interviews, behind the scenes, and retrospectives, I wish 13 Ghosts had this much action-packed bonus material. Just do yourself a favor, avoid urban legend unwrapping Candyman. It's woke central from foul intellectual Tana Reeve do, the same academic blowhard from Eli Roth's History of Horror, and she just takes all the fun out of this movie. You'll thank me later. Finally, we close out our home release bulletin the same way we opened it, with a werewolf film, when Dog Soldiers 4K unleashes on June 14th. A military training exercise with British infantry is cut short when, after finding the butchered remains of special forces, things get hairy. Ha! Even this crime scene proves a trap, as the perpetrators ambush the soldiers who very well would have been counted amongst the dead had a traveler on the road not given them a lift. Retreating with her hitchhiking soldiers to her cabin in the woods, it's a last stand against the wolf pack. For a simple premise, largely single location film, this movie gets a lot of mileage because it gets a lot out of its cast. I've always enjoyed these Band of Brothers casts, where ensuing horror either brings survivors together, like Predator, or sows dissension, like The Thing. Because the characters play off each other so well, you want to see them survive the night and feel the loss when any of them are eaten alive. Just like Predator, this is anything but a power fantasy, as the infantry's ammo is already running low by the time they arrive at the cabin, making for pretty innovative use of household appliances to deter the pack hunters. Only here do the soldiers show what they're made of, resorting to throwing everything they've got at the bloodhounds, including the kitchen sink. With An American Werewolf in London 4K out in March 2022, The Howling landing on 4K in Halloween 2021, The Cursed Blu-ray due out in May, and Dog Soldiers coming to 4K in June, werewolf movies are killing my wallet in the best way possible. A number of horror film releases were announced all in rapid succession. All of them sequels because originality and risk-taking are dead, so I'll give my thoughts in quick-fire fashion. The Nun 2. So, not only did the Conjob universe have 3 nosedive entries in the series release in an 8-month period, the mainline Conjuring 3, rumored to save the horror genre, couldn't even salvage its own languishing series once it rounded out to a trilogy. But now, not only is this dead-end character getting a sequel, but who did they tap to direct? Well, the same hack director as 2 of their last 3 cinematic washouts. The Nun 2, The Devil Made Me Stupid. Batman 2. As glad as I am that we're finally at a point where we can have honest conversations over how the Batman was critically overrated and commercially underperformed, news of the sequel is met with all the enthusiasm of a CNN Plus news app. Wherever they take this franchise with this Batman can't be anywhere interesting. The fact that WB is quietly hoping to recoup some shekels now that the Batman is streaming on HBO Max, they thought they'd be counting the days until they hit No Way Home billions. Instead, they're counting the lights like a JetBlue passenger under Tyson's fists. Crimes of the Future. With a title that sounds like the wet dream of our big tech overlords finally convicting us all for wrongthink,
gained entry to the Ministry of Truth.
Thought crime is death. Thought crime does not entail death. Thought crime is death.
A visual style reminiscent of the upcoming H.R. Giger game called Scorn, and the return of Godfather of body horror, David Cronenberg, to the genre that has missed him so. I'm anticipating this film so much, I'm even willing to look past the casting of that human scowl known as Kristen Stewart. As interested as I am in the plot's description and depiction of the next phase of human evolution, what's really tickled my curiosity is what it is that human organs and mutations are adapting to in this film. I'm interested to see what form this synthetic environment that mankind is acclimating to will assume, as well as the homecoming of this 80s horror director back to the genre for the first time in 23 years. A Quiet Place 3. Likely in a bid to keep John Krasinski front and center in the plot, Part 3 is going the prequel route, again with the tagline, A Quiet Place Day 1. Personally, I find these films to be middle of the road. I'm not gonna sing its praises like it's a second coming of Silent Hill, and I'll save my rage sessions for ranting about topics that actually merit such vitriol, like venture capitalists purchasing digital public squares with their own money. My god, what oppression. I realize this franchise has its fans, so all I can meet the news of its continuation with is that it either meets or exceeds your expectations. Ghostbusters Afterlife 2. Word out of CinemaCon announced 2 sequels coming from Sony Studios. First up, finally, a breath of fresh air and some good news to look forward to. I invite you to check out my review of Ghostbusters Afterlife, which I gave a solid recommendation to. I only ask that for the sequel, now that we've gotten our trip down memory lane out of the way, that we focus on the team dynamic of these new, established ghost hunters, an entertaining story that blazes its own trail, and a fresh villain for them. With series favorite Harold Ramis having gotten his send-off and series creator Ivan Reitman having recently passed, the franchise has been given a third chance for a second lease on life, and the only path is the way forward. Venom 3. The second Sony sequel announced is Venom 3, and honestly, what can be said at this point? I can't be persuaded from my general malaise with this series to get excited, let alone optimistic. What they should do is recognize the shallow characterization of the first two films, embrace the horror, deepen the storytelling, and go the Logan route with a hard R rating. What they're probably going to do is go the desperation route post No Way Home and do a Venom Spider-Man team-up or face-off, so count me out and piss off. Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness. Sticking with comic book sequels, we at long last have Doctor Strange 2 releasing in theaters this week. I will save my thoughts on the film for when I review it. However, for now, I'll just say that with Disney opting more for the horror route, even hiring Evil Dead director Sam Raimi to help trek into Marvel's unknown, and writing off the lead-in of Spider-Man No Way Home, they have done a good job of setting this movie up. Fingers crossed that the good doctor delivers and doesn't falter due to malpractice. Speaking of Marvel films, let's shift gears from the Multiverse of Madness to the bottomless bargain bin. Morbius Bombs. Here's a riddle for the scholars. If a movie bombs because no one went to watch it, does it make a sound? If you were doubting the impact of comic book films this year, I present to you the following. I don't know what I find more ironic, that a movie about a vampire sucks, or that the premise involved research into bats for the betterment of humanity. Seriously, did I even have to with this movie? Let me guess, it's a bloodless action romp, right? Let's settle for a watered-down PG-13 rating in order to get young brats into theaters. Epic fail. I'm glad that backfired. Bear in mind, I'm not a gorehound in the slightest, but for a premise where your protagonist feasts on human hemoglobin, you know, a vampire, the studio sanitizes, see also neuters, its fear factor and essential storytelling element. This is what they learned from the Venom films. Sterilize subject matter that's obviously geared for hard R ratings. They struck fool's gold with the first entry in that franchise, and now 2 movies into their dark universe or whatever, they crap the bed harder than Amber Turds rage pooping her dookies all over a mattress.
It doesn't matter, Kevin Kelly, what you call it. A rage in a cage, penis in Uranus.
Marvel proper most assuredly won't learn that lesson with their Blade reboot, and rest assured, they'll dilute Deadpool once that character enters the MCU. The reactions, though, to this trivial film of marginal relevance have been far more entertaining than anything that could have come from this movie. Well, this last one leads me to the buzzkill of the news bulletin. For our top story, we've now had 1 full month of memes, GIFs, and trends on the Will Smith Oscar slap, and I, for one, have enjoyed every second of it. It has been nothing short of gut-busting and side-splitting to see what hot takes, wild puns, and turns of phrase that the internet will come up with to put this clown show on parade. When all of a sudden, what do I happen to find?
They're all gonna laugh at you.
Sorry, Cassie. We're all so sorry.
They're all gonna laugh at you! No! 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 They're all gonna laugh at you! Dear Lord, leave it to horror websites to swoop in to spoil all the fun. Honestly, did they really think to capitalize on all the news coverage surrounding this with some pandering virtue signaling? I thought Bloody Disgusting was out of touch with their snowflake agendas and identity politics. Now look, on the subject of toxic relationships that is clearly at the heart of this drama, I'm not a virologist, psychologist, or biologist. I'll just make two final points before I move on to my main topic of discussion. Firstly, yeah, let's pretend that with the 5th installment of the Scream franchise, that the thirsty clickbait horror sites weren't quick to set their spin cycles to full-on hype train mode, reminding each and every one of you that it was indeed Neve Campbell that was the Scream Queen of the decade where that film debuted. Hey, did I mention that sequel dropped just this year? Just 3 months ago at the time of this recording? Did I mention that Dread Central was very much included in those fluff pieces of the Sidney Prescott character as the quote-unquote ultimate 90s final girl? Just thought I'd shine a spotlight on how these hacktivist web pages check which way the wind blows so they know where to direct their lying tongues to commence bootlicking. Just thought I'd zero in on a laser focus over how they'll happily amend whatever stance they've made at the drop of a hat in order to abide by the latest trend. Revisionist history in service of modern agendas may earn you shallow clout, but it's a poor substitute for news coverage or credibility. Second of all, iconic? Performances? Was her portrayal so forgettable that we have to make it plural for emphasis or recollection? This is such an ambiguous role that Jada Pinkett herself would have to rack her cue ball of a head to even recall that she was in a horror movie, let alone mainstream audiences remember. I kid you not. The casting in this movie is such an obscure reference that had Chris Rock made a Tales from the Crypt mention instead of name-dropping G.I. Jane, that would have gotten a bigger rise out of the live audience as well as the both people that still tune in to watch the Oscars every year.
I think you'll find our will equal to yours.
Our? Welcome to Earth.
With that out of the way, here is my central theme for even raising this topic, because I can assure you, it's not to ride the bandwagon of all the ridicule this bitter little shrew so richly deserves, especially since people have moved on to a different rodent altogether. No, it's the thought process behind this editorial. For a genre so obsessed with social commentary, they're hopelessly unacquainted with the cultural zeitgeist. I mean, if we're talking about the Oscars, honestly, who said it better?
If you do win an award tonight, don't use it as a platform to make a political speech, right? You're in no position to lecture the public about anything. You know nothing about the real world. Most of you spent less time in school than Greta Thunberg, so...
And believe me, not only is horror media every bit as sanctimonious as the Hollywood elite, these are the same attention-seeking grumblers desperately pining for validation from the Academy every year like clockwork. Whereas horror was once at the vanguard, it now finds itself despondently behind the times. Their finger on the pulse of society is a futile endeavor for 3 reasons. A, how are you going to read for signs of life with your fingers when your thumb is parked firmly up your pooper? B, the reason you don't register blood flow on the genre or its fans is because your own hand has gone numb from beating it raw, stroking your own ego over how progressive you are. C, of course you're not going to find a pulse. The woke agenda you've been forcing is the same corpse you've been dragging. While I continue my movie reviews and game streams, I will endeavor to invest more time into the Coroner's Report, if for no other reason than to sift through the weeds of pearl-clutching outrage and holier-than-thou preachiness and give you some damn horror news. And another thing, Billy Zane is the only reason to ever watch Tales from the Crypt, and everybody knows that.
Suck this one down, Uncle Willie. Long, hard one. Nothing gets you fucked up faster. Am I right, guys?
Hello. I'm your waiter, Skip. Our special today is a lovely poached appendage. Market price, of course. For starters, I recommend the finger food. Is that a yes?
No. That's me giving you the finger, asshole.
I'll get back to you.
If it makes you feel good, do it.
It makes you feel good, do it.
First things first, of course. The blood seal.
Vaya con Dios.
And a vaya con diablos to you, too. Oh, Roach, there's just one more thing I forgot to mention. I lied. He's looking at you, Uncle Willie.
This has been the Coroner's Report for film releases, and I've been Inkarnate, reminding you, no news is good news.
Warn your friends. Warn everyone.